Welcome to the Human Frequency. We are preparing for an event in LA this weekend. We're going to be at LA Skywatch, so I hope to see everybody there. I'm going to be doing a talk about the real cover-up behind geoengineering. This is so much more than chemtrails and even energetic warfare. There's a total UFO alien element here, and I'm going to be showing pictures. So I'm very excited, and that's what we've been doing all week. We've been getting ready for this event, and we'll be at the Unurban Coffee House in Santa Monica talking all about the alien extra-dimensional aspect.
Mm-hmm. And that's this coming Saturday, June 24th. You can come to our website, thekembo.com, for more details on that.
Anyway, this last week, we saw a pretty startling headline, and I saw this on Yahoo. This comes from Newsweek, and we just had to talk about this. Stephen Hawking says Earth is under threat and humans need to leave. This was the big headline in the science section of Yahoo this week, and goodness knows you have to scroll quite a bit to get to the science. You have to go past entertainment, style, and fashion, Kardashians, and then you get to the bottom, and there's science.
All the good stuff. Once you get past all the good stuff, then you get the, science. Who cares about that, right?
Right. So anyway, it was quite a headline to come across because you hear so much these days about how the human race is destroying the planet, and there's too many of us. And it's all our fault. We made global warming. There's all these terrible things that humans supposedly did to the Earth. So, of course, a headline like this gets my attention.
Well, I think it would get anyone's attention. It's just, it's keeping in line with that doomsayer mentality of it's all our fault. We're destroying the planet and other such things. But yeah, it was pretty startling, the things that he said. But it's very interesting to unravel the semantics of it.
Right, and that's what we're going to talk about. In this article, it begins by saying Stephen Hawking has warned that the Earth is under threat and repeated his belief that humans must leave in the next few centuries if we are to survive as a species. Now, right off, we're going to actually be reading quotes from this article, and I'm going to just break down a lot of this stuff. And Gabe, why don't you tell me what you think is going on with this one? Because I see something very interesting in the way he worded this.
Well, I see it too, Sharon. It's the distinction between humans and we. If the humans must leave in the next few centuries, if we are to survive as a species.
Right.
Not if humans are to survive. He's not saying we must leave. He's saying humans must leave. So what's he really saying?
Who is the we is the question.
Exactly.
And that's why this is so interesting to me, is because Stephen Hawking is literally speaking on behalf of the parasites, the parasitic extraterrestrial or extra-dimensional races that have been feeding off the life force energy of Earth for millennia. And we're talking about something really big here. So before we continue analyzing Stephen Hawking, I just wanted to reference something that I read on ascensionhelp.com. Cameron Day talks all about these parasites, and he says he has an essay called Never Call Them Archons, because archons means ruler, and he says these guys do not rule over me, and guess what? They don't rule over any of us. But they've been here for a long time, and what they did was, eons ago, they committed an atrocity against the Earth. They did this horrible destructive action, and this can be seen in the destruction of the original nature that was here, the giant ancient trees, and they traumatized the human race by doing this destructive act that killed off so many humans and destroyed the planet, essentially. So we are the descendants of a traumatized human race, and this planet's been inhabited by these extra-dimensional parasites that we can't see, that are in a different dimension than us, but they suck off our life force energy and the life force energy of the Earth. So I'm saying right off, Stephen Hawking is talking for them.
Well, a 75-year-old man in that wheelchair, he's kind of in a perfect position to be sort of the PR person for the global parasite.
Well, I mean, are you saying that because he seems like, why would this guy be deceiving us? I mean, he's an old guy in a wheelchair. He's a scientist. Is that what you mean?
Well, to me, he's so obviously part of the mind control matrix, part of the mainstream scientific narrative, like with Neil deGrasse Tyson and all of those guys. And they sort of promote that whole anthropogenic global warming idea and blaming humans for everything, when in reality it's the parasites that are doing it, and they're just trying to, again, it's the inversion. I think we talk about this all the time.
Right. So Stephen Hawking warns that he says humans need to leave if we are to survive as a species. So I just found that interesting. So this set the stage for the article and showed me that it was the parasitic entities that were speaking through Stephen Hawking.
So to recap, the translation of that is humans must leave this planet if the parasites are to survive.
Exactly. Right, because we represent a threat to them. So Stephen Hawking went on to say some more things.
Yeah, I'm going to just pull this exact quote here. The Earth is under threat from so many areas that it is difficult for me to be positive. The threats are too big and too numerous. Our physical resources are being drained at an alarming rate. We have given our planet the disastrous gift of climate change. Rising temperatures, reduction of the polar ice caps, deforestation, and decimation of animal species. We can be an ignorant, unthinking lot, unquote. Oh my God, there's so many.
There's a lot to talk about.
I think we need to break this down sentence by sentence.
And actually, I did a little analysis on this. If you want to check out the article and read the original article, go to my blog, thekembo.tumblr.com, and you can click on that. And I did a little analysis on this, but right now we're just going to go over this and more. So let's start out with...
Okay, it's difficult for him to be positive. Well, yeah, because their DOR sources are going away one by one by one.
Well, so the parasitic entities, and this is, Cameron Day talks about this. I definitely recommend that you look at ascensionhelp.com to learn more about it. But they feed on negative emotions. So they require deadly energy on Earth in order to live. They need that desertified, polluted planet in which the inhabitants are suffering.
Mm-hmm. They need the suffering.
They need it to feed. So when he's talking about there being so many different threats, it's absolutely true to the parasites, because humankind is waking up and we're starting to do things like make organite and gift it. That's a huge one. There's more. We're becoming more positive. We're doing more meditation and things that strengthen our minds. There's so many things humans are doing now to gain higher consciousness. We're learning about the food we're eating. We're not taking poisons into our lives as much. So the more that we learn these things, the more strong we become, the less the parasites can feed. So
that's why they're under threat from so many areas. And all of those areas include people are not eating GMO food anymore. People are starting to filter the chemicals and the toxins out of their water. People are starting to make organite. Those are the different areas that he's talking about. They're no longer able to maintain that stranglehold over the collective psyche of the species.
This is exactly what he means when he says our physical resources are being drained at an alarming rate. Now, to a regular reader who hasn't thought more deeply about any of the issues that we talk about regularly, they're going to say, oh yeah, the humans are using everything up. We're running out of water, we're running out of oil, all these things. But that's not actually what this means. In actuality, humankind does not have scarcity. All scarcity is either manufactured or it doesn't even exist. We just think it does.
A hoax.
For example, the water scarcity in California, because people don't know about primary water. They don't know about the numerous aquifers under the earth that could sustain all of humankind even without any rainfall. We have a lot of water at our disposal. So it's not that we need rain to fill the reservoirs. We already have the water under the earth. But because of the organite distribution and because of breaking down the weather warfare, we have increased the rain. And so the reservoirs too are overflowing with water. So there is no real scarcity. And the oil, when we're worrying about oil scarcity, let's get real here. We know that we don't need that to run our cars anyway. And fossil fuels in general, that we're supposedly destroying the earth with them, technically we probably don't even need them at all, because eventually free energy would come out and then we would not have to even go there. But
that's a story for another time. But this is just another area where they are lying to us. And when they say we have given our planet, I like that. That's like the planet is proprietary to them now.
We have given our planet the disastrous gift of climate change. But what in the world does that mean? He's saying the disastrous gift. Now, that's an interesting contradiction right there.
But I want to go back to our planet.
Okay.
They're claiming ownership over this planet, even though they are outsiders and this planet does not belong to them.
Right, but again, to the average reader, he would read that as human beings, us, have given our planet. So to the average reader, this sounds like humans have caused climate change. Because there is only human beings. To the average reader, there are no extraterrestrials or extra-dimensional beings. So if you understand that there's not just human beings that are the so-called intelligent life on Earth, that there's other beings as well, you would read this differently. But
and who would use an absolutely Orwellian term like disastrous gift? Only an invading force of parasitic entities would, in my opinion.
Well, it sounds like a contradiction, a disastrous gift. So the way that I have read this is that to the parasites, climate change is a gift because they have been desertifying our planet and making it hotter and hotter and drier and more dead for a long time. They say that we've been doing it by, driving our cars and using carbon energy. But in actuality, the terraforming operations against the Earth have been going on for millennia. Wilhelm Reich found this in the deserts. He found that the deserts were artificially created through DOR, deadly orgone radiation. That's food for the parasites. So you can kind of see that connection.
And it's a gift for them specifically because they cannot survive in an environment that is rich with OR or orgone energy. They can't live, so they have been so kind as to bestow this gift upon the planet of an atmosphere that's more hospitable to them and less hospitable to us.
Right. So they're destroying the Earth. Well, it's disastrous for the humans. It's a gift to the parasites to cause this kind of negative climate change. Now, he goes on to say rising temperatures, reduction of the polar ice caps, deforestation, and decimation of animal species. Now, this is also very important to look at what he's talking about here because we, again, think human beings, we've been taught that human beings have done these things. But what he actually is talking about is the DORizing of our planet by the parasites. The rising temperatures are a result of these energetic assaults on the Earth. So you've got, nowadays you could see it very easily with EMF and with geoengineering. It's an assault that's energetic that causes the temperatures to rise. And that's what they want. Reduction of the polar ice caps, again, that has nothing to do with us. Climate change happens. It happens in cycles, but also the heat up, any heating up that's artificial is not caused by humans, it's caused by these parasitic ETs.
But again, these qualities are being ascribed to us when in reality it's these off-world entities that are doing it. And have been for thousands of years. Wilhelm Reich discovered this.
Absolutely. So the deforestation part is also of note to me because when we think of deforestation, we generally think of cutting down the rainforest, cutting down forests all over America for paper.
Lumber companies, things of that sort.
But there's a deforestation that's so much even greater than that. This is what Cameron Day was referring to when he talked about that cataclysm that happened on Earth that wiped out all of the coastlines, that caused such a destruction of the environment that the humans became a traumatized species. Now, he doesn't mention it specifically on his website, but I think that this tragedy was the removal, the cutting down, and the blasting of the giant ancient silicon trees that we talked about when we discussed there are no forests on Earth. Deforestation is so much more than we realize. What the extra-dimensional, extraterrestrial beings did was so much more tragic. And what the humans are doing is tragic too, but we're just repeating what they did on our little small scale. We've learned from them. We've been programmed by them.
Yeah, in our own penny ante way. And as far as the decimation of animal species goes, well, that just goes hand in hand with the terraforming. If you terraform the Earth, there are species that are not going to be compatible with what the land is being terraformed to.
You know, we noticed something interesting when we were at Contact in the Desert in Joshua Tree, which is that with the increase of orgone energy in an area and the decrease of the DOR, you see a return of animal species. There were species that I saw in the desert, and I have been to Joshua Tree many times. I have never seen these species in the desert. And I know they're there, but in small amounts. what I saw was the desert cottontail rabbit, which I know is obviously a desert animal, but he's in small supply. Up here in the mountains, they're everywhere. So all of a sudden, I'm starting to see these rabbits coming out more and more in Joshua Tree, and I'd never seen one there. And the ladybugs, there were ladybugs everywhere, and also besides the animal species, we had the super blooms of flowers. So you see plant and animal life just flourishing.
Mm-hmm.
So,
and we see this all over the place. All over the globe, there are instances of species coming back where they hadn't been in many, many years, sometimes even decades.
Mm-hmm. So we're actually seeing these species that have been gone, and orgone energy can even bring back extinct species. So we know that the life force energy is life generating. And in fact, Wilhelm Reich found that the theory of spontaneous generation, which had been completely debunked by science, was actually something that could happen. He found that life could indeed spontaneously generate. And this,
And
of
it
course,
did.
and of course, this threw the biological world on its ear as well. So what I'm seeing is human beings can bring back these species, and they can bring back plant life and restore. So the decimation of the animal species, all this stuff was done initially by these parasitic entities that just had it in for this planet. That's what they do. They're an artificial intelligence. They just latch on to a planet like this and just feed. They destroy and feed. So,
And as usual, the parasitic narrative is the complete opposite of what is reality. And this last sentence, we can be an ignorant, unthinking lot. Again, who is we?
we is them. Because he's making a distinction between humans and we. Those are always as two separate words, which we'll see as we go through some more of his quotables here.
Yeah, wouldn't you say humans can be ignorant? Humans can be unthinking? No, he's saying we.
You got to translate it.
Right, yeah. That's what this is all about. You have to read between the lines here, and you have to decipher what they're saying.
So he said all of this at the Starmus Festival in Norway, where he was doing an address on all of these terrible things that humans do to the earth. So the article continues to talk about the idea of humans becoming a multiplanetary species. And he goes on to talk about this.
Yeah, there's another quote here. Let me get this. Okay, quote, "We are running out of space, and the only places to go are other worlds. It is time to explore other solar systems. Spreading out may be the only thing that saves us from ourselves. I am convinced that humans need to leave Earth," unquote. Okay. Again, let's start at the top and work our way down. So he's saying we are running out of space. Again, it's this ambiguous, well, who is we? Is it the parasites or the humans?
Let's take it as we being the parasites going forward. I think that's been established. So we are running out of space, and the only places to go are other worlds. Absolutely true. So again, on ascensionhelp.com, I was just revisiting the article, Never Call Them Archons, which I definitely recommend. Go check out that website, because it's good insight into the idea of these parasitic entities and how to get rid of them. Although he never talks about orgone energy specifically, he talks about stuff that's related.
Or the problem of cell phones and
Yeah, he doesn't talk about
devices.
that. Yeah, that's their way of putting DOR into your pocket, so you can have it with you all the time to make you a good source of food.
Well, it's their way of injecting it right into your body field, your
Exactly,
aura.
exactly. So that's really great for them. So yeah, remember, turn off your cell phone when you can. But I talk about that all the time. But we are running out of space, and the only places to go are other worlds. So Cameron Day does talk about how the parasites do this to multiple planets. This is not just the Earth, but that they latch onto these three-dimensional worlds, and they traumatize the residents, and they feed off of their negative energy. So
now, this is where it starts to get really interesting. Spreading out may be the only thing that saves us from ourselves. Well, to me, this is like the final last bit of proof that these are parasites, because what do parasites do? They infect the host. They get the host to assist the parasite to the demise of the host. And when the host dies, the parasite dies along with it, because it's embedded in it. There's no way for it to escape.
So they need to find other worlds, because they are going to kill the host of Earth if they stay here. However, what's been going on is because of planetary healing, we've been restoring the Earth, and they actually can't live here anymore. This is why we see chemtrails disappearing, and this is why chemtrail planes disappear too. You can watch the planes literally disappear.
You can come to the blog. We've got all of this stuff. Recently, too, in the past month, we've seen an incredible increase in planes that are vanishing, that are flipping shapes in midair, and in some cases are just not even there at all.
Right, and sometimes you can see through them. There's all kinds of strange stuff going on up there, and I really see that these extra-dimensional entities are being thrown back into the dimension they came from, or that they're dying. They cannot live in the healthy, life-giving atmosphere of Earth. That's why they keep poisoning it. But now, because of what Stephen Hawking is saying here, he's recognizing that the parasites are going to have to leave, and that they're to their own demise. The parasites are always working to their own demise.
Mm-hmm. And they acknowledge that.
He goes on to say, I am convinced that humans need to leave Earth. See what he's saying? He's saying that in order for the parasites to stay here, the humans will have to leave. We can't coexist. So that's
of course they're not implying that they should be the first to make a move and leave the planet. Mm-hmm. They're saying that we should.
Well, they're saying that we're making it uninhabitable to them at this point because we're giving so much life energy to it. So, they really have no choice, because if they stay here, they'll die. But if we leave, then what are they going to do? Who are they going to feed off of? So you do have to think about that too. They really are just screwing themselves no matter what.
Well, their entire existence is based on just one gigantic screw job, I guess you could say.
Well, the article continues to say that the Milky Way is home to an estimated 100 billion planets. Of these, millions, if not billions, are potentially habitable, meaning they could have the right conditions to host life, including a stable climate that allows liquid water to exist.
There's
the right
that word
conditions, again. Not to support life, to host life. Do you see how this article, everything in it is completely from the parasite's point of view?
Not to support life, not to sustain life.
To host life. This article was very, very amazing to me to break this down and to see what Stephen Hawking was saying. I don't actually take very seriously any mainstream scientists anymore. They all are speaking for the parasites, the Parasitic World Order. These are not human beings.
It's an infection. It is a parasitic infection from an alternate dimension or an alternate reality or planet of some kind. And these are entities. These are not living beings. That's why we're in the situation that we're in. We are triumphing, and the evidence shows it. Stephen Hawking is just telling you are winning, guys, humans, you are winning.
Mm-hmm, but just remember that most of the average readers out there are going to see this the opposite way. So for the mainstream audience, the narrative is presented. You humans are destroying the world. But for the more critical thinker who reads between the lines, you can see what he's actually saying is there's a war going on between parasites and humans. You guys are kicking our asses. And we want you out of here because we can't live with you. Well, we're not going anywhere. They're the ones that are going to go.
That's right. And now this is the perfect opportunity to step on the gas and make some Organite, gifter towers, and force them out that much sooner. Thank you for listening. You've been listening to The Human Frequency. Please come to our website, thekembo.com, and check out our upcoming event this Saturday, June 24th at 2 o'clock p.m. at the Unurban Cafe in Santa Monica. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.